The final panel features engaging, passionate panelists to talk about the approaches for achieving stability and sustainability. So I'm very happy to introduce Dia Martin, Managing Director of Social Enterprise Finance at the DFC, to moderate this final panel. Dia?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. I am absolutely thrilled to moderate this panel. I am joined by three impressive panelists that will share the great work that they're doing. Our panelists are Ambassador Robin Bernstein. Ambassador Bernstein was sworn in and appointed by President Donald Trump on July 3rd, 2018. Prior to serving as ambassador, she was president and director of Richard S. Bernstein and Associates and vice president and director of RISBR Incorporated. I am also joined by Ms. Sarah Thorn. She is the Senior Director of Global Government Affairs at Walmart. Ms. Thorn is primarily responsible for managing international policy issues at Walmart stores. She also leads the team that manages global supply chain. We are also joined by Ms. Shelley McKinley. She is the Vice President at Microsoft Technology and Corporate Responsibility. Her team delivers on Microsoft's mission of empowering every person and organization on the planet to achieve more by driving digital transformation and readiness. Shelley oversees Microsoft's Airband initiative, which we'll hear more about later in this panel. Now, to set the stage for our conversation today. Research confirms that investing in women yields some of the strongest returns. When marginalized or disempowered women receive fair access to capital, jobs, skills, products, and services, they have a voice in the community. They make decisions that improve their lives and the lives of the community overall. The lack of sufficient access to technological know-how and digital solutions has proven particularly critical for women, especially as it relates to sustaining businesses, health outcomes, economic stability, and other drivers of women's economic viability. During this panel, Approaches for Achieving Stability and Sustainability, we will dive into innovations and interventions that are key for implementing solutions that empower women to strengthen vital economic systems, expands their access to market, and sustains their livelihoods and their well-being, as well as the well-beings of their family and community. Without further ado, I'd like to dive into this discussion with my panelists. I'll first start with Ambassador Bernstein. You have been an entrepreneur, business consultant, and now U.S. Ambassador to the Dominican Republic. In your experience and with your platform, what interventions have you found to be the most critical and had the greatest positive impact as it relates to women's economic empowerment? What programs, projects are being implemented in the Dominican Republic to support women's economic inclusion?
Thank you, Dia. Good afternoon to you, my distinguished co-panelist, and to everyone watching. I'm so happy to be here today talking about efforts to secure and promote women's economic activity in the Dominican Republic, Latin America, and around the world. Serving as the U.S. Ambassador to the Dominican Republic is the culmination of a lifelong dream for me, precisely because it has given me the opportunity to elevate priority issues to public attention, just as we are today in discussing the vital role that women play in local, national, and global economies. I would be remiss if I first did not thank the DFC, Adam Bowler, for your opportunity to participate today, and I want to gratefully congratulate Ivanka Trump for her leadership in creating and spearheading the DFC Prosperity Initiative 2X. Congratulations, Ivanka. Creating economic opportunities for women increases global economic growth, peace, and stability for all, as we have heard today. Around the world, we know that when women are empowered to participate in civic and economic life, their communities, families, and countries are more prosperous, healthy, and safe. From the outset of my tenure as ambassador, I made trade and investment one of my 4 priorities, and women's entrepreneurship and empowerment has been a key part of that trade and investment pillar. I'm delighted to be able to share with you today some of the examples of the work that we in the U.S. government have done in the Dominican Republic to support this effort. First of all, the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, or as we fondly call it, AWE. There is a lack of economic opportunity for women in the Dominican Republic, especially in rural communities. Women-led ventures rarely survive 2 years due to the lack of management training and access to capital. The State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs highlighted the creation of the 2019 Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, or AWE program, in 12 countries, including the Dominican Republic. The program in DR received over 400 applications from across the country. The Banco de Reservas Entrepreneurship Program, CREE Banreservas, supported 6 additional participants for a total of 36 beneficiaries. These 36 women from Santo Domingo, Santiago, Punta Cana, and Moca were selected for the program. The women led small businesses working with food and beverage, commerce, education, tourism, fashion, communications, and marketing. These all beneficiaries received 8 months of training and mentoring to accelerate and scale their businesses. They increased their business earnings, grew their workforce to provide more employment opportunities, created new and improved services for their customers, increased their clientele, created strategic alliances and helped place them in new markets, moved their ventures from homes to new and more advanced venues, and perfected their business plans. One of the many success stories was a beneficiary who was able to place her dessert specialty product in local supermarkets, which I feature at events in my residence called Cookies. As a result of one of the events, she made contact with senior officials from the government and diplomatic community that have greatly expanded her business. During these months, they also gained the confidence to lead their businesses, actively contributed to their communities, and created a strong sisterhood of women empowering women. The first year was such a success, we are continuing with the second cohort of women in the northern central part of the country called the Sabao, with a virtual AWE program to support women entrepreneurship during the COVID-19 pandemic. Another initiative we supported was the DFC Citibank initiative as part of the Global Women's 2X initiative. In the DR, just over half, 56% of the adults have a bank account. Lower income households across the country have less access, with a gap of 23% between higher income and lower income individuals. The U.S. Embassy worked with the DR government and the DFC to clear administrative hurdles that had blocked DFC financing of projects in the DR for many years. And in October 2019, we welcomed the first new transactions in almost 20 years.
Wow.
As part of the Global Inclusive Finance Framework, an innovative public-private partnership between Citi and the USDFC, 2 Dominican financial institutions with a demonstrated history in advancing financial inclusion, are receiving access to funds for the purpose of extending microloans to borrowers in need of support. The loan facilities, $10 million to each one of them, enable these 2 leading microfinance institutions in the DR to expand services to an additional 14,000 entrepreneurs, of which 9,000 will be women. Transactions like these demonstrate how, by working with local intermediaries, we can harness the power of the U.S. government and global giants in the private sector like Citi to meet the needs of unbanked and underbanked households in emerging economies and provide sustainable financial services that enable lower income entrepreneurs to achieve greater financial independence and resilience. Another novel approach we took, we went into the fashion industry. And through the U.S. Embassy in Santo Domingo, we funded the program RD Fashion SOS with a contribution of US dollars $100,000 to mobilize the Dominican fashion sector and U.S. government program alumni to produce PPE for medical professionals in support of the fight against the spread of COVID-19 in the Dominican Republic. 6 U.S. government-sponsored program participants and 123 fashion professionals came together to sew more than 12,500 protective garments, surgical caps, booties, scrubs, and medical sheets that were donated to the Dominican National Health Service for use in Dominican hospitals by medical professionals on the front line. More than 90% of this program participants were women, and this is one of their beautiful fashion. Vitamin Angels. We decided to go into the health sector. Healthy economies depend on having healthy women participants. If women, and particularly mothers, are not healthy, they cannot care for their families, run businesses, or contribute at their full and vital potential. In an effort I spearheaded with the Ministry of Health, the Vitamin Angels nonprofit organization is partnering with local Dominican organizations and the Ministry of Health to deliver prenatal and other crucial vitamins to women and children to reduce maternal and infant mortality in the Dominican Republic. Another initiative, we went to girls through the Mariposa Foundation. The Mariposa Foundation in the northern part of our country is dedicated to girls' education and investing in girls in order to close the gap on generational poverty. We supported the foundation and, in particular, its vision to build a Museum of the Girl to advance the cause for the international girl movement in collaboration with girl activists, leaders, and educators from around the world. There are so many initiatives that we've launched, so many possibilities, but I would also be remiss if I did not give a shout out to my friend John Barsa, USAID, and thank him for the support of many USAID initiatives in the Dominican Republic, such as gender differentiated credit scoring using mobile phone data and machine learning, procurement transparency activity in partnership with the through the USAID and the Department of Commerce. Finally, enabling through USAID, the Catalyze program. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we have not been able to launch this initiative, but USAID is such a critical element and partner in Embassy Santo Domingo. And I thank you very, very much. So with that, that's part of some of the highlights of some of the programs that we've been able to launch here in the Dominican Republic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ambassador Bernstein. I think it's so great how you clearly outline how there is a holistic approach, bringing together multiple parties from the public sector, harnessing the force of the USG, as well as from the private sector, looking at Project All to look at education, networking for women, as well as access to finance, and of course, very holistic, looking at women's healthcare and supporting them in that way. So thank you so much. At this point, I'd love to turn it over to Sarah, and we can take a look more closely at the private sector. Sarah, we'd love to learn how Walmart is working to bolster women, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and entrepreneurs in Latin America and globally. What are the key drivers for sustainability and stability for women's economic empowerment? And more specifically, what have you seen to be the best interventions that yield the greatest results?
Well, thank you so much. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today. You know, when there's a lot that's making me sad lately, and this particular topic just fills my heart. It is incredible to see such goodwill and such good work in place, creating inclusive growth. And for us at Walmart, we think women are the key to inclusive growth and development and have dedicated ourselves to that cause. So thank you to the DFC and Charity and Carrie for allowing me to be here for this short time. to answer your question very succinctly, the best thing we can do, speaking from the private sector, is to find initiatives that really leverage the strengths of the private sector. So Walmart is an example. We're a pretty big company. We hire a lot of people. We buy a lot of stuff. So if we think about how we create inclusive growth, we just have to think about how we hire better and how we buy better. How do we bridge the gap between informal and formal? And what is the technical assistance that we need to help people become part of the formal sector? Sometimes it's as easy as just helping farmers with the right technical assistance, and women farmers in particular, and they can become a part of our supply chain in one turn. For women-owned businesses, sometimes it's harder because the delta between the formal sector and the informal sector is that much bigger. So we need more help, but we should do it, and we have to do it, because if we invest in women, we really empower the world. And we've seen it firsthand. Walmart has been working in this space for over a decade deliberately. In 2011, we started an initiative called the Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative. It was a multi-billion-dollar initiative that looked at where we intersected with women all along our value chain, in farms, in factories, for their first job, and even women-owned businesses, and even higher, thinking about diversity and inclusion for those big billion-dollar brands that supply to Walmart. We know that if we invest in women who are our core shopper and the majority of our associates, we're going to be a more relevant business for our customers. Speaking particularly in Latin America, and particularly with USAID, we have for a number of years worked deliberately on MSME growth. And we know this is important because we have stores in Central America, and we need a strong ecosystem of development around those stores. And the best way to do it is to think about how we get more small businesses into our value chain. So for a number of years, we've been working on a program called Una Mano para Crecer, which is a hand to grow. And it's exactly that. How do we reach down into the informal sector and think about what are the skills that these MSMEs need to become part of our value chain? We have had tremendous success in Central America. We have partnered very well with most probably of the businesses and NGOs on this call, because we can't do it alone. We have to do it collaboratively. We know our business, but we don't do a lot of technical assistance. So having that sustainable partnership can really help. In Central America alone, we work with 464 MSMEs. 169 of those are women-led businesses, and that's particularly important for us. So the real unlock for us is, what are those scalable capacity building programs? If I'm the market and I'm helping you and saying, I want to buy from you, what are the gaps we need to address? And how do we do that at scale? So for what we've found for many women-owned businesses is, it's actually not rocket science. It's, I have a wonderful product, but I may not know how to market it. I may not have access to finance so I can scale it. I may not know how to distribute it. I may not know that you already have on your shelves 14 types of granola, but I make granola. So maybe you need to come to our stores first and do a market analysis and say, what is special about my product that a customer is going to want to buy it, and what's the price point I need to do? So we are thrilled to be working with the DFC, with USAID on these types of programs. I'm going to say, watch this space, because we're going to be announcing something soon. I don't want to preempt myself about exactly that issue. How do we scale? How do we do the kind of training? We know women-owned businesses, when you're put in a cohort, when they're supporting each other, they can do amazing things. They support each other. They hire each other. They create an ecosystem of support. But it's really expensive, and it's really strong. You need lots of interventions. So how do we do this so that we can actually make it at scale, get the right kind of trainings? Because we want to buy from you all. We really do. We know it works. We have sourced over $20 billion from women-owned businesses for our U.S. business alone. And that was just in a 5-year period between 2011 and 2017. I think we're up to about 34 billion now. That's a lot of money going into the hands of women who will then invest in their communities. So because I have to moderate a panel next, I'm going to tell you what needs to happen. I'm going to give you my little wisdom, and my closeout advice is, we also think that there is a tremendous challenge right now with women at the base of the pyramid, particularly in the garment sector, as a result of COVID. We have seen the vacillations of supply and demand have a devastating impact on women garment manufacturers. And we really are working on a very excited blended finance program with the DFC and USAID to get that capital and that liquidity into supply chains so that they can support women, and then the right kind of technical support. I was so thrilled to hear Willie talk about hand sanitizing. That is the smartest thing you can do. Put the infrastructure in to keep people safe while they can be working. So sorry, that's all I have. That's my intervention. Thank you so much for being here. And if I pop off the screen, it's because I have to moderate a panel on resilient supply chains. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I think what you said is so important, that idea of looking at scalability and unlocking those obstacles that could be the secret or the one linchpin to a woman being able to successfully grow or scale her company. And I also think it's very powerful, the idea that investing in women-owned businesses, but also investing in women as employees and looking at the power of women's economic empowerment for customers. I think all around you can say women's economic empowerment is good for business, and we really appreciate your remarks. At this point, I will turn over to Shelley. Shelley, we know that there is enormous gender digital divide, which has far-reaching consequences. Microsoft is working on the Airband initiative, which focuses on closing that digital divide for women. Can you tell us a little bit about this initiative and some of the success stories that you've had?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here today. Thank you for having me. I've been listening to the other panels, and what an impressive group of women and a couple of men that you've assembled today. And they've cited so many interesting statistics confirming what we all know too well, which is that women have less access to educational, economic, health, and societal opportunities around the globe. And so I want to provide you with one more statistic to put in your head today, and that is that the proportion of women using the internet globally is 48% compared to the proportion of men, which is 58%. So in relative terms, that means that global internet user gap is about 17%. In all regions of the world, men are using more internet than women are, and that gap is especially pronounced in the least developed countries, as you would expect. And so what that means is that women have less opportunity to access those educational, health, and economic and societal benefits that you get from the internet at the very time that we're seeing an explosion of online opportunity as a result of the growth of the internet and internet-driven technologies. And of course, the COVID pandemic, as you've heard today, has highlighted so many of the challenges of the digital divide. Connectivity and access today are more critical than they were yesterday. And the pandemic has really acted as an accelerant to drive so many essential activities being accessed really solely online. And as we've also heard, women have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic around the world. If we look in the United States and the employment rates as an indicator, where we used to have pretty close to equal unemployment rates, now we're seeing that women are more unemployed than men. And it looks like the statistics in April were about 3%. And so you can imagine what the rest of the world looks like if the US is seeing that kind of disparity. So this is why it is so important that we focus today on accelerating our efforts to connect women. And as you mentioned in the beginning, one of the programs that I work on at Microsoft is called Airband. And Airband is aimed at connecting the world's unconnected people and to foster more inclusive access. So through our long-standing efforts to connect communities around the world, what we've seen in underserved communities, often it's the women who don't have access. So in reducing the digital divide, it isn't something that Microsoft can do alone. As Sarah talked about Walmart, none of us in the private sector can go and tackle this by ourselves. We really need to work with a network of partners, both public and private. And wanted to just highlight a couple of examples of our partners. We work with Mwingu Networks in Kenya, which is exploring ways to increase the female users at their Wi-Fi hotspots through specially targeted offerings for women and for offering things that women need, like digital skills. So once they access the internet, they can actually use the internet to do really productive things. Bluetown is another company that we work with that works in Africa on last technologies, expanding rural access. And they are working in many, many different countries, including in Mozambique, where they're creating entrepreneurship programs to put local women through and to increase their technical skills and ability and improve their access to devices. Because what we all know painfully around the world is that you don't have a good device to access the internet. There's a limited number of things that you can do with it. Another partner, New Sun Road, is an energy access company, because when we think about the digital divide and the internet divide, we don't even start to get there until we start solving the energy challenges. And so New Sun Road has developed some really innovative energy access technology, and they work specifically to focus on skilling up women and girls for economic opportunities of the future as part of the work that they do in the communities that they serve. And so we have the great benefit and pleasure to partner with all of these companies that are working around the world. And so it's through partnerships like that and through partnerships like with the DFC to take these learnings that we're all getting and to really scale them throughout the world. Because as Sarah mentioned, it's really all about how do we scale going forward so that we can help some of these solve some of these challenges. And so while we're excited about what we've done to date, we know that there is just way more to do when we can start solving the global internet connectivity gap by working together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Shelley. I really appreciate your comments, and I'm very happy with the partnership with the DFC. And I think you really highlight how the access to technology isn't just technology, but it's access to energy, to education, to being able to really improve the quality of one's life. So I really thank you for that. I know that we're getting close to time, and we would be remiss if we didn't have this very impressive panel share with us their recommendations and their calls to action. So I'd like to do that really quickly. And I'll start with you, Sarah. What would be your single recommendation or call to action for us?
I think Sarah left.
Okay. Thank you, Charity. Shelley, what would be your recommendation or call to action?
Sure. Well, I think we have a unique time at the moment during COVID recovery when there's so many investments being made, and we need to ensure that that is an inclusive recovery. So there's a clear opportunity to continue to grow our public-private partnerships to invest in internet and IT infrastructure. And importantly, as you mentioned, that's not just for the sake of internet and IT itself. When you combine a little bit of energy, a little bit of internet, some cloud technology, and most importantly, people who are empowered to access that opportunity with human ingenuity, you can really make a difference. And second, I would say I heard from one of the panelists earlier on one of the other panels about the disaggregation of gender data. We cannot solve a problem we do not understand. And so it's so important that we continue to ensure that we understand where the problem is and understand by data and also by working with communities, because what I like to say is nothing about us without us, and that means women need to be at the forefront of guiding this recovery, and people and women in communities that are recovering need to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Shelley. I love that statement. Nothing about us without us. I think that's very powerful. And now I'll turn it to you, Ambassador Bernstein. I'll give you the final word on the panel. What would be your recommendation or call to action for us?
Well, thank you very much. What an exciting time to be a woman. I have to say, it's more exciting than ever, and to be able to watch and collaborate the best practices throughout the hemisphere has just been truly exciting. And believe me, I'm going to steal some of the great ideas I heard today. And with that, it was really interesting because I would say spread the word and share this conference with everybody in your social network. There's such exciting opportunity, and there's such wisdom from my distinguished co-panelists that was shared today. I would say spread the word with this, and also for me, it would be that for the corporate as well as the government's sponsors is to support and help us expand the public health agencies and NGOs that are developing capacity for women and children's health. I really, truly believe that a healthy mother is really at the core of a building block, because the mother's the one. Father's out, working. She's raising the children, without a healthy mother, a child isn't going to be able to study. A healthy mother isn't going to be able to work, raise her children successfully. So it's so important when we have programs like the one I mentioned, the Vitamin Angels product, to please get behind these NGOs and organizations like USAID that can help a country's capacity to support and sustain maternal health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Bernstein. And I couldn't agree more completely. I think for us, understanding the importance of healthcare and being able at the DFC to provide support to the healthcare sector is really important, because the health of a woman, a mother, impacts the health and the viability of the entire community. So I'd like to close by saying thank you again to all of our very accomplished and impressive panelists. And I will, at this point, turn it back over to Kevin and Charity. Thank you.